So today we're going to talk about how to get a man open up emotionally. And you need to say this. And I'm excited to have our guest, Sabrina Rising, in the house. Welcome.
Hi. Hi, everybody. It's so good to be back here. Hi, Jonathan.
Oh, I love having you on. So we're going to talk about intimacy, vulnerability, trust, and actually really tapping into our intuition, how to operate from that place intuitively when it
Yeah.
comes to romantic relationships. So, all right, in one quick sentence, how can we get a guy to open up? How can we help women get a man to open up?
Well, you have to open up first.
Mm,
Vulnerability breeds vulnerability. So we can't
yeah,
expect to receive something that we're not capable of giving, or we can't expect to, like you go first type of attitude. And I want to acknowledge that when we talk about opening up, we talk about, sharing feelings, being
yeah,
raw, being vulnerable, being transparent. And these are all like buzzwords as far as, building conscious partnership and, lasting and meaningful relationship. When we talk about those things, it can be very scary
yeah,
for us to open up and for us to like allow ourselves to be seen and recognized and sharing intimate details about our lives and so on, because we're inherently afraid of being judged and rejected. I mean, let's face it, when
yeah.
we're dating and you're meeting someone, and or maybe you're into the relationship and you're really into this person, it's still like that first 3 months where you're still kind of establishing that groove, and
Building trust.
you're building trust. And all of us have things from our past perhaps that we
Yeah,
are less than excited to share about, or things that maybe we don't forgive ourselves for, that we might feel ashamed of. It can be
yeah.
challenging to go into that dynamic and say, this is me. Now I would love to know more about you, right?
So, Sabrina, I want your perspective on something because this morning I was, and without going into particulars, I was experiencing an emotion of grief. But as
Okay.
I leaned into like so, and I actually had a moment where I just wanted to stuff the emotion. I
Yeah.
didn't want to actually feel the feeling. And then I said to myself, I really, and let's just say it had, for argument's sake, let's say it had to do with my son who passed away, and I was feeling an emotion. And I said, okay, let myself, what am I really feeling? Because I didn't know. I just knew I felt something.
Yeah.
And I really almost had to force myself into the feeling of anger. I mean, that's what I was feeling was anger. But I when I say I had to almost force myself, I was confused by my feelings. Am I making sense, by the way?
Yeah, I think what you're sharing is that sometimes it's very difficult to know what you're feeling, right? To be able
Yeah.
to
And
connect to those feelings. Yeah.
so when they say feel your feelings, because I hear this all the time, feel your feelings. I'm like, well, actually identifying what I'm feeling off can many times just be like it takes work just to figure out what I am feeling. And I know that sounds
Yeah.
counterintuitive, but I feel like putting words to what I was feeling was challenging.
Yeah, I hear you. I mean, listen, the process of waking up,
Yeah.
right? If you want a conscious, loving, sustainable partnership, which I'm assuming, this is your audience, right? These are the people that are watching us.
Yeah.
Everybody wants loving connection and intimate partnership and sustainable, sacred union with your beloved. Um, it requires waking up. And
Yeah.
waking up means we wake up to our own pain. We wake up to our own unresolved issues. We wake up to whatever patterns we have in our own lives that we're perpetuating based on our conditioning, our childhood conditioning, based on, relationships we've had in the past and so on. Waking up to these things and allowing ourselves to become sensitive to our own
Yeah.
needs.
Yeah.
And when you're able to identify your needs, we talk about NBC every time we do this
Yeah.
chat, you and I, when we're able to identify our needs, we can easily then, yeah, there it is.
Yeah. Nonviolent Communication by Marshall Rosenberg. Links below to get all the books I recommend.
Yes, yes. Bless your heart, Marshall. So when we talk about identifying needs, we automatically then have feelings about it. Like you have
Yeah.
certain feelings when your needs are being met, and you have feelings when your needs are not being met. Right? So that is a wonderful starting point for anyone who is trying to get connected to their feelings. When we're talking
Yeah.
about, we're talking about how to get a man to open up, right? This is what we opened with. And
Yeah.
the way that we get the opposite sex, whether it's a man or a woman or a friend or a coworker or
Yeah.
any other human being, to open up is by bringing in our own vulnerability, right?
Yes.
I'm willing to take that risk. I'm willing to be vulnerable. And this is so important. And I'm sure you would agree, especially as a man,
Yeah.
when a woman is so embodied in her own self-honoring,
Yeah.
self-care and self-validation, it's attractive when she has the courage to show up and say, this is me, this is how I feel, and this is what I think, and these are my needs. What do you think about that? I would love to hear what you have to say about that. I'd love to hear about you. How does that land for you?
Well, it's interesting. So I had to write down something that you were sharing because I am so grateful that you didn't say I had to lean or a woman needs to lean into her feminine energy. What you said was lean into self-honoring, self-validation. I actually wrote down self-trust.
Yeah.
Why I appreciate that you said that
Yeah.
is because you didn't characterize it as masculine and feminine, because
This-
self-honoring is a human experience, not a masculine or feminine experience. So I just want to share that with you, that I was reacting in a happy sense
yeah.
because you said that. But more importantly, what I've observed, and I'm going to piggyback on what you say, and I'm going to throw it back to you for a second.
Sure.
I've observed that men tend to open up emotionally when a woman creates the container for him to open up emotionally, because I think women tend to be, more often than not, a little bit more in touch with their feelings. And let me
100%.
share an example and I'd like you to respond.
Sure.
So one of my dearest friends, who I love dearly, we were talking this morning. I mean, this is the honest God's truth. I said, what is your secret for no longer overreacting with defensiveness and your snarky behavior? Because I said to him, I go, I've noticed that in the last 5 or 6 years, you were so much better at not getting defensive, pausing, and not being snarky. And he said, and then he reminded me of his previous relationship. And he said, I was on a crash course for healing with her, because she would always catch him and invite him to respond in a different way. And by literally this repetitiveness with her, he actually began to effectively become more in touch with his feelings. So I oftentimes say it takes a woman for a man to open up to his feelings. Yeah. But where I'm really going with this, and this is kind of where this topic is, get a man to open up, is I think if a woman leads by example, we men, we're trainable. If we care about you, we're trainable.
And here's the thing. I really want to make this a universal truth, because men hold space for women all the time.
Okay.
Men and I know that this is true for you in your life. We men can whoever is the more evolved, more conscious, more a person who's
Aware.
done more inner work,
Yeah.
is going to, try to elevate the frequency of the relationship, right?
Okay.
Anybody who is the more evolved one. Are women typically, historically, more in touch with their feelings? Do we have more permission to be emotional in society? Is historically, yes. Have we had more? Has it been more? I guess, allowed and even encouraged for us to express our feelings, 100%. And that the opposite is true for men. Men historically, we're still coming out of the generation of men that, are not supposed to cry, or not supposed to feel, or not supposed to show their feelings, or not supposed to let their guard down. They're supposed to be tough and all that stuff. We're just still coming out of that consciousness. It's very new still for this new generation of embodied masculine presence to be vulnerable and raw, and to be comfortable with their feelings, and to feel powerful, empowered by their emotions rather than disempowered by their emotions. So this is still a new thing, so ultimately, whatever you desire in partnership, whatever you want to create, you got to be able to show up in that way. it's like any other recipe for manifesting. It's like, if you can hold the energy of it, if you can be the demonstration of that,
Yeah.
I am this, then you're going to attract someone who can meet you there. It's just that simple.
So I want to preface the title for a second, because the title I wanted to get the conversation going, get a man to open up emotionally, say this. What I want to share with everyone, what I'm inviting everyone to say is, when I begin to open up, it creates the container for my partner to open up. Say it to yourself.
100%.
And yet there are men and women. There are plenty of avoidant women. There are plenty of
Sure.
emotionally unavailable. I mean, I don't want to characterize it by a percentage, but it's significant for
Mhm.
both. I would suspect when a person struggles opening up is because they have a deep wound that is invited to be healed. Would that be true?
100%. And here's the thing I want to say, tell ladies about men
Yeah. Yeah.
historically, just from my own experience and what I've observed in terms of, working with others as well. I think that when men feel like there is a real possibility of genuine, authentic connection with the
Yeah.
person, they will want to, because they will naturally want to let their guard down. That makes sense.
Yeah.
And I think
Yeah.
that's true for women as well. I just think that men are more guarded in general because of everything I just shared. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So when we are in the presence of someone who is open and contain and comfortable with their own emotions, comfortable in their own skin, and able
Yeah.
to express themselves fluidly and transparently, even if there's nothing more attractive than sitting across from someone and having them say, like, I'm so nervous right now, I can't even think of what to say. I just hope I don't mess this up. Like, perfect transparency. How cute, how sweet is that? Like, someone is so
Yeah.
nice that they're just start sharing. You don't have to be like this, self-aware guru to say, well, right now I'm in this pattern of this and this or whatever. You can just share from the moment. Like, right now I'm feeling uncomfortable in my skin. I feel a little
Yeah.
awkward, I feel a little embarrassed or shy or nervous, or it's been a while since I've been on a date. Like, it's okay. That these are little baby steps that create the opportunity for true vulnerability
Yeah.
and softness, and it lends support, right? It's like in nonviolent communication, when we say in the, in the language structure says, would you be willing to support me in getting my needs met? When someone says to you, would you support me in getting my needs met? I mean, of course, yes, absolutely.
Well,
What do you
if you get resistance to that, then you have to really examine, is this the person you want to be in relationship with?
And this is the thing. What you said is so spot on, because if you have to, first of all, if you have to manipulate to try to get a person to open up, okay, it's
Yeah.
never going to work,
Yeah.
because that manipulative energy is felt, right?
Yeah.
So if you bring yourself in and you show yourself, you show your feathers, and you share transparently in earnest about, whatever it is that's present for you, and you bring that vulnerability, and the person that you're sharing with, shuts you down or rejects you or just can't
Yeah.
sit in the fire with you. They just can't hang in that type of, they're not comfortable with their own feelings. So of course they're going to reject you. Does that make sense? And
Yeah.
it's better to know that right away than it is to prolong the whole performative aspect of dating and being in, courtship and all that stuff. Just say it. And if that person can't do
Okay. So I'm going to put you on the spot, and I apologize, but I know you can handle it.
okay,
So,
that's interesting.
so for the record, everyone, Sabrina's in a relationship with an amazing guy named Bo. They live together.
Yes.
Do you recall I mean, can you actually maybe even recall one of the first times you had that kind of conversation with Bo, and if you can remember what it might have been? And I know I'm putting you on the spot.
Yeah. I mean, listen, I'm happy to share. I think it's important for people to know, like,
Yeah.
you know, uh, my relationship with Bo has been intentional. Hi, beach lover. Oh, it's good to see you again. My relationship with Bo has been intentional from the first day. I
Yeah.
mean, like, obviously it was sort of like, the universe kind of brought us together with our kids and an event that we sort of met at, and the whole story.
Yeah.
But I remember sitting with him, in I think our first alone date together. He has 2 children and I have 1 child. So
Yeah.
we had some blended family outings before we actually sat down, just the 2 of us. And you know, we are both like completely straight and transparent about
Yeah.
where we've been, what we're doing, you know, who we are, what we want. I mean, it was just like, this is it.
You
You
laid
know?
your cards on the table.
Yeah, well, why not?
Yeah,
This
I
is what I'm
know.
saying. Like, this is just like it, you know, I know it feels so painful and so nerve-wracking, and everybody wants to be cool and be, uh um, mysterious, and that it doesn't work.
Confident. Everyone has to feel confident.
I know, like, here's the thing. If you find yourself attracted to a person who's emotionally aloof, you're
Yeah.
not ready for intimate relationship.
Mm.
You're not. You're actually setting yourself up for a relationship that's riddled with anxiety for you personally,
Yeah.
second guessing yourself, self doubt, obsessive behavior, checking your text messages, making sure he's calling, where is he? Why isn't he calling
Yeah.
me? That whole thing, like that is that cycle that gets triggered. If you find yourself, this is so important, always check to see who you feel attracted to. Because if the person that you're attracted to is not someone who's like open and grounded and genuine and, ready and
Right.
present and willing, yes, I want relationship too. There's no, I mean, there's time, it's time to do some inner work so you can attract someone like that.
Yeah, I mean, this is something I habitually talk about,
Yeah.
and I mean, not that I want to dive into like avoidant or anxious
Yeah.
attachment style, because
Yeah.
that's a
Yeah.
whole nother conversation. But
Sure.
I want to lean into, when we talk about intimacy, we talk about vulnerability, we talk about authenticity and transparency. But I want to shift the conversation a little bit to
Yeah.
intuition,
Let's do it. Yeah.
because I feel intuition is that, and maybe this is the way I interpret it, and tell me if this is fairly accurate, but it's when we can tap into our inner knowing
Yes.
and allowing that inner knowing to be like the guidance system for your car, so to speak, the navigation
Yes. Yeah.
system. Whereas, but this is tricky, because I do believe there's a difference between our head and our heart and our intuition. And,
Mhm.
and I do believe a lot of people confuse their heart with their head. And I mean, head is the ego, wants to control everything. Heart just wants to feel loved. And the intuition is saying, look, you're going in the wrong direction,
Yeah.
kind of thing.
The head is saying, look, I'm just trying to keep you safe. I'm just trying to keep you
Yeah.
safe here, and then the heart's going, but we just want to love. Let's just love everybody. Let's love everybody. And then intuition is going, you're both nuts. You're both nuts. Everybody just be quiet and listen to me. That's kind of what it's like, just to make a joke out of it. Like, inner knowing, we all have it, and it's that instant gut feeling.
Yeah.
If there's a gut feeling, and if you look back, to those that are watching, like, if you look back at some of your relationships that didn't work out, we all
Yeah.
know, we saw the signs, we knew it then. We were so busy trying to be listening to the heart, who just wanted to love,
Yeah.
or maybe listening to head, who was just trying to keep us safe, and just kind
Yeah.
of like fighting between those two authorities, that we kind of like override our own intuition, and
Yeah.
we always end up where we're supposed to be, because it's all part of our growth and development, right? So there's no such thing as like, I dated the wrong person. You dated the person that you were attracted to at the time, that showed you that this is not the version of yourself that you want to be.
Yeah. It's interesting. And I want to go back to something in a second.
Sure.
I was actually sharing with a client who said I sabotaged an early relationship. I go, no, you did exactly what you should have done. I mean, in the sense that if we can stop looking at things as right or wrong,
Yeah.
and can look at something as an experience and what could you have gained from the experience without an attachment to the outcome, I'm going to say that I'm beginning to navigate this thing called life with a lot more, I'm going to use the word contentment, less anxiety, not a lot of highs, but not a lot of lows. But I want to bring it back to the intuition, because you said something so critically important. The head is trying to protect you. The heart just wants to love. How do we actually learn to listen to the gut? Like when you've got the devil on one shoulder and the angel on the other shoulder, how do you actually decipher what's really what your intuition is telling you to do?
I love this question. So how, when you want to hear something, what
Yeah.
is the first thing we do as humans when we want to hear something?
Or be silent.
Yeah. Be quiet.
Yeah.
Be quiet. Shh. Turn down the volume on everything else in your life, whether it's turn down the television or turn down the radio or ask other people to be quiet with all of their advice giving and all of their telling you what to do and who you should date and not, just get quiet. It's honestly, anybody can do it. I've built my entire 20-year career as an intuitive guide, listening to my own inner knowing and being able to connect other people to theirs. Because when you're connected to your own inner compass, you can't make a mistake. It's not possible. It's just not possible. When you listen to your logical brain that says, I want to keep you safe, you're going to create situations that are safe, but that feel limited, that don't light you up, that don't create that spark, that don't fulfill your needs, right? These are the relationships with the safe person where you're totally bored and you're not connected and you're just like, oh, I want more than this, right? Where you don't feel engaged. Make sense? And then if you listen to your heart and you just want to love, you just give your love freely without really, making sure that this is the person that can meet you there. This is a qualifiable candidate who matches your value system, who's actually available to show up and help you meet your needs. I think the intuition, once you learn to quiet both of all of the noise, right? And just get still and take some deep belly breaths. Let's get connected to our bodies. Let's get out of our heads. We'll honor the heart and say, I know that you have such a beautiful, eager need to love and be loved. And I want to honor that. And I want to make sure I choose the right person for you. Right. So there is an emotional maturity component that comes with that. It's saying, you know what? I look at my choices in the past and I can see that I've been impulsive. I can see that I've been cautious. I can see that I've limited myself, or I haven't been choosing with the right part of me. When you lean into your intuition, you say, okay, I trust this, and I want to say one thing. When you're using your intuition to pick a partner, just start with baby steps. It's like, yes, just say yes to the one thing that feels good. And then wait. And then if something else comes along, feels good, you say yes to that. Makes sense? Like you would in a conversation. You can say yes to a first date, see how that goes. That doesn't mean you have to say yes to a second date. You don't jump into the future. It's really important, if we're listening to our intuition, to take it one day at a time, sometimes one conversation at a time.
So I love this, and there's something I want to share with you really quickly, everybody. Before I do, in a few minutes, I'll be asking questions. So if you have a question for Sabrina, I post the word question in the chat box and then post the question thereafter. Or you can purchase a super sticker, super chat. There's a little $ in the chat box. All of the monies from the super sticker, super chat goes to a scholarship fund in the name of my son, Connor Asley. That's a picture of him there with his brother, Colin. He's my son who passed away over 6 years ago. In his honor, we donate to causes like the Hoffman Process, Insight Institutes, and scholarships to coaching as well. So, and our goal tonight, let's get $50 for Connor. So if 25 of you donated $2, we'd get there. So a couple things really quickly, everybody. I'm going to post a link below. Sabrina actually does intuitive work. She has a class on it. She has a master class on it. So after this video, just check out the link below and that'll take you to Sabrina's site. So Sabrina, it occurs to me, someone once said to me, coming back to your intuition speaks from like that quiet place, but it's a very soft sound. It's not like, get off the airplane now, the plane's going to crash. Kind of thing. It's not like that. In other words, it's a subtle knowing.
Yeah.
Where I think people confuse their intuition, I'd love your take on this, is like, okay, I'm going to give a crude example. You went on a date with somebody and you went to go get your car, the valet, and he didn't offer to pay for the valet. Oh, he must be cheap. That's my, like, you create a story, a judgment over something that just didn't feel like what you wanted.
Mhm.
I think oftentimes we create stories from that ego or heart place. We create a story, maybe even a judgment around it, calling it our intuition. Am I even remotely on the right track here?
Yeah, I mean, listen, you can't hear your intuition when you're triggered.
Okay.
You can't. Yay, super sticker. You can't hear it when you're in reaction. It's not
Okay.
possible. So in that moment, if you are in a dating situation or any life situation where you feel triggered and you notice there's a judgment being formed, like, oh, this person is cheap, like you said, then the first thing you would do is, slow down your own nervous system. So take some deep breaths so you can communicate in a loving way,
Yeah.
without, insulting or diminishing the other person. And then you would say, hey, when you did that, I felt X,
Yeah.
whatever the feeling is, right? And see how that person responds, right? And so the way that that person responds, that person might say, hey, I thank you for sharing, this is that the other, here's my explanation, or here's why I did that, or that person might get angry or however they respond is such a good indication of the quality of relationship that's available with this person, right? Like how they respond in that moment is really sets the tone for like, oh, I can share with this person. I can share my feelings. I can share uncomfortable things with this person. Does that make sense?
So you just triggered me.
Okay.
Okay.
Good.
Not too long ago, I actually felt attacked by a friend of mine.
Uh-huh.
And my reaction was to get defensive. Like I
Yeah.
had to defend myself. And later I thought, God, I didn't handle when I went to go reflect, because I do like to continually improve, but my natural reaction was to get defensive because it did, even though from their vantage point, they thought they were doing NVC, but
Yeah.
but it was like, sometimes I think, like, my point is I as evolved as I think I might be, or whatever, self-aware, all that stuff, there's still gonna, I feel like it's still natural to get defensive when we feel like we're getting attacked, even if it's not an attack. Am I making sense?
Yeah, I mean, I hear you. Again, it's all about the energy behind the words. You could be using NBC structure. You could be using
Yeah.
a very compassionate language structure. But if you're using it like, to drive a point home, it lands. It lands that way. Say, hey, you know what? Like this might be really hard for you to hear, Jonathan.
Yeah.
But this is what I felt in that moment when that happened. How does it make you feel when I share that? Like the way that you share something makes all the difference in the world.
I would
You
say
can
it
tell
was
somebody the worst thing ever and say it the way I said it and be like, oh, okay, well, yeah, that doesn't feel good. Right? You know what I mean? Like it's the way that you say it. If you say it with love, it's like anything else. If you say it with love, it lends that the invitation for deeper exploration into dialogue. None of this has anything to do with intuition though, because we're talking about communication and being able to communicate. What's important to note is that when you're triggered, you don't have access to your intuition. And to
okay.
live an intuitively guided life, okay,
Yeah.
which is where you're listening to that inner guide and you're making choices from that divine place of inner knowing, like this is the job I want, this is the guy I want, this is the direction I'm going to go in, I'm going to stay away from here, I'm going to stay away from there, I'm going to live a divinely, guided, intuitively guided life. I say divinely because, it's, for me, it's all universal intelligence.
Yeah.
We have to cultivate stillness on a regular basis, which means we have to work through our triggers regularly.
Yes.
Working through your triggers is turning down the noise. That's what it is. It's just you keep turning down the noise on yourself and all of your pain and all of your fears and all of your, limiting beliefs about what's possible. You just keep turning down the noise on that and keep opening up this other whisper, which gets louder, by the way. The more we listen to it, the more we tap into it, the louder this whisper becomes. And then we can have a discernible, I teach this in my 8-week class, by the way, when it's starting on Thursday. It's an 8-week class called The Way of the Mystic for anybody who wants to learn how to develop their intuition. And so it's
There'll be a
important.
link below, everyone.
It's so important to be able to say, okay, that's my gut. This is my gut. I know this. I know
Yeah.
this, because if we can say, okay, that sounds like fear. This is coming from fear. So I know that's my mind, right?
Yeah.
This is coming from like just impulsivity and like, beautiful optimism, which I don't
Yeah.
want. I don't want to detract people from being in their heart and want openly love and all of that stuff. Sometimes it can put us in situations that are painful, right? If we're not mature and we don't know ourselves, right?
Yeah.
So we want to be able to know that what that voice feels like and say, okay, let me lean into my emotional maturity and allow my intuition to guide me, right? And into what feels good.
So we have a question we're going to
Yes.
take in a second, but I just want to share with everybody. A few moments before we went live, I was sharing with Sabrina something that came up for me. And it was interesting because Sabrina, I sometimes like to share with you my inner dialogue.
Yeah.
Because I'm actually getting better at recognizing that when I can take a step back and look at the actor on stage and be the audience member, I sometimes laugh at my own ability to go into fear, to go into anxiety, to go into judgment, and all of it thinking it's my intuition is the funny part of the story here, when it's completely just a story I made up in my head. So, folks, it takes, as Sabrina said, and I'm speaking from personal experience because I've been working with Sabrina for almost 2 years now. Peeling the layers is little by little, it's incremental, but you do it enough times, you begin to actually witness yourself and pull yourself away from the triggers, the fears, the beliefs or judgments, and really recognize what's going on. And so, again, whether you choose to work with Sabrina or not, I'm definitely recommending her because she's helped me tremendously.
Beautiful.
Sabrina, we got a question from Maureen.
Hi, Maureen.
Hi. So, Sabrina, just want to check in. If I understood you well, in order to create my partner is to start to open up first and be vulnerable with him.
Yes, definitely. If you need something in your relationship, it's important to show up willing to offer it to, right? It's really important. And I think for anybody who's, lacking transparency or, wants a little bit more, wants their partner to open up. Look, when you want your partner to open up, what you're basically saying is, I would like to go deeper with you. I would like to go deeper with you into love. Are you willing to go deeper into love with me? What a powerful question, right? Like when you're sitting across your beloved or whoever it is you're dating, whoever it is that you want to get to know better, are you willing to go deeper into love with me?
Okay, but I have to argue this for a second.
Sure.
And when I say argue, I have to, I think most human beings, they're like deer in the headlight to what you just said. Like, what does that mean? What does that look like?
Okay, good. So you follow that up. You follow that up with, here's what that looks like for me.
Exactly. Oh, that I would agree with.
It's going to be different for everybody.
Yeah.
For somebody, it might be, will you spend time doing my favorite activity with me?
Yeah.
That could be going deeper into love. Will you share with me a little bit about your past? Or will you share with me what your biggest fear is? Or when you this is very subtle work, because there could be a million different nuances to this conversation. If you find yourself wanting to know how your partner feels about you, what his intentions are, if he's planning to commit, like those kind of questions that we all go through, especially in the early stages of relationship, you need to ask those questions. We have to come out of rumination and into the reality of what the dynamic is and be like, hey, I feel yes.
Okay, but here's what most women have. Now, I'm trying to make a point.
Before this conversation to have it.
Wait, what'd you say?
Did you prepare that piece of tape in
No,
advance?
no, well, no, I use this habitually on my videos. So
Okay.
now I
Oops.
don't mean, let me just be clear for everyone. I'm not suggesting that there isn't a natural uh, pain in someone's past that might keep them silent. But
Sure.
I'm here to, what the illustration is, and it's really like, if you want something, speak up and ask for it. In other words, by being silent on what you want, we men aren't mind readers, number one.
This is
Number
important
two,
for everybody. You
yeah,
have to make direct requests.
exactly. And so if you have duct tape on your mouth, meaning, well, they should just know exactly how I feel. It doesn't work that way. But where I'm going to go down a different rabbit hole right now, Sabrina, because I've observed that most people have a shallow relationship. They don't really have a true intimate relationship where they're actually honoring their feelings outside of physical feelings, like lust or limerence or infatuation or sexual desire, that sort of thing. Those feelings, the physical feelings,
Mm-mm.
I think most couples struggle because they don't know how to actually express their feelings.
Mhm.
First, I said this earlier in the video, identify what your feeling is, but
Yeah.
then being able to articulate it, and then articulate it in a way that can be seen, heard, and understood in that kind, nonviolent communication means compassionate communication.
Of course.
Yeah,
This just takes some work. It takes some work,
yeah,
and I've guided many people, many couples through this process. I know you have to. It takes thank you, Maureen. It takes a willingness to, you know, take personal responsibility for the quality of relationship that you're in.
yeah,
It's like anything else. If you want to be really good at something, you want to be a really good partner in a relationship, you have to learn how to be good at it. It's not a natural ability that we have. We come from this conditioned, experience of childhood where we witnessed all kinds of dynamics in our family. Some were good and some were not good. Some we
yeah,
never want to see again. And some of those dynamics make us never want to be in a relationship. And some of them were really, beneficial and loving and nurturing examples of committed love. And so wherever you are in your own sort of relationship belief system, it's important to examine that and say, okay, what do I want to create? Here's this guy or here's this girl, and we've got great chemistry. We have great sex. We have fun. We go out. We have a few drinks. We do a couple things here and there. We play golf together, but it's like never deeper than that, right? Like it's, you know
yeah.
what I'm saying? And I'm describing a lot of relationships, right? This is a very common thing. And so if you want to go deep, women aren't my ears either. Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm just I'm kidding. It's true.
Well,
People need to know what you need to know what your partner needs. That's why we always say advocate for your needs and make direct requests. It's 100%,
the
accurate.
fear, I think the fear, coming back to the duct tape,
Yeah.
reference, the fear is if I express my needs, they will run away.
Let them. Let them.
Say it louder for everybody
Let
here at the
them.
back row.
Let them run. Let them express your needs immediately. Date one, so you don't waste any time and you don't
Yeah.
waste, good perfume and a good good hair and a good outfit. Just say your needs on the first date, immediately out of the gate. Say, this is what I'm looking for. These are my needs. This is who I am. This is how I operate. This is how I live my life. These are the things I'm into. Are you in? If they can't meet you there, if they run, then you want that. You want to vet the the right person by eliminating the wrong one. We want to do that. Okay, we don't need everybody to like us. This is wrong thinking. This is wounded thinking.
Yeah, a couple of months ago, I'm not sure if I told you this story, but and this has happened a number of times now. I'm very upfront with somebody, either in an email or a text message or a phone call. Like, I'm all about personal development, self-help, spiritual work. This is a big part of my life. I want someone who's immersed themselves. And I had a woman, and I wrote this to a woman on a dating profile, and she wrote back, she goes, I don't think I'm as evolved as you. And she goes, I don't think I can. And I'm like, and by the way, I want to be clear with everybody. I wasn't trying to suggest that I was of more, like I didn't want to use the framework of more or less in it. I just said, this is who I am. This is what I want. Are you even in the ballpark? And she's like, I'm not even in the ballpark. I'm like, great. And
Thank you
that
for being
ended the
honest.
conversation. Yeah.
Perfect. We don't listen, don't waste time trying to get, and I see women doing this all the time. We were
Yeah.
talking about the shallow relationship, and being able to
Yeah.
go deeper. So just to wrap that thought up before I share this, like if you want a good quality, deep, intimate relationship with your partner, you have to be willing to ask the deeper questions, and you have to be willing to expose yourself as well.
Yeah.
There are things you can do like, hey, what's your deepest fear? What are your hopes and dreams? What is the thing you've always wanted to be when you were a kid? Like there are questions that you can add that can really sort of, they don't have to be like, you know, painful
Where do you,
questions.
I don't like the one, where do you see yourself in 5 years? I'm like, I don't even know what I'm going to do 3 days from now,
Yeah,
let alone
that's more
five
like a
years from
job interview question,
now. Yeah. I
because, but the essence of that question, let's not, I
Yeah.
understand we don't like the question, but the essence of that question is, are you a stable match? Right? That's where
Mm.
that question is coming from. Are you a person who is looking for stability? Do you have goals? Do you have a vision, a plan for your life? We all want someone who has a plan for their lives,
Well, I'm going to even advocate more. This is a video. You may not know this title I just did last weekend. It's called "Is He Committed to Commitment?"
yeah.
Like I am very aware for myself, and this is what I'm advocating. Is this person you're interviewing, if you will, committed to commitment? Like,
Yeah.
because it's one thing to say, oh, I want a relationship, but how committed are you to that? And what does your path to commitment look like? And what does it look like beyond that? So I'm in agreement with you. I
Yeah.
don't like the question only because it does remind me of a job interview question. But,
Yeah.
but it's rather important, particularly since my audience is women, is look at coming back to what Sabrina said, define what it is you want, have clarity on what it is you want, because then your intuition will start. I believe when you are aligned to who you are and what you want, your intuition could drive the car for you.
Okay, and this is perfect for everybody listening. I'm gonna segue what you just said with this.
Yeah.
If what you want is something that's being driven by fear, your mind is choosing for you.
Okay.
Okay. I need somebody who can take care of me. Oh, I need somebody who's stable. Oh, I need somebody who's like, whatever, like the safe choice as we talked about, right? Like if you're
Yeah.
if what you want is being driven by fear, it's not your intuition. If
Okay.
what you want is being driven by this idea of like, love and like just like, hopeless love, hopelessly in love, the idea of romance, what we see in Hollywood, like
Yeah.
the fairy tale type of stuff, which we all, I mean, it pulls at everybody's heartstrings, we all
Yeah.
go, ah, and that's great, but that's also not your intuition. Your
Mm.
intuition actually knows what serves your highest and best good. It knows what is actually for you. A person, and I say this every time you invite me on the show, I always say, don't find somebody you can date, find somebody you can grow with.
Yes.
You want that person who is like, hey, I haven't figured out my stuff completely, but I'm so committed to figuring it out. And most people are afraid to commit. You're right, Maureen. A lot of people are afraid to commit because they're afraid of being hurt. They're afraid of being
Yeah.
rejected because they haven't healed their own wounds around fear, around rejection and abandonment or whatever the wound is. And so they don't want to commit. They don't want to commit either because they're afraid of going all in, because going all in means I have to risk being vulnerable. I have to risk
Yeah.
putting it all on the line. For some of us, especially in the internet age, and this from dating online, it's like, what if there's something better out there, right? So there's that little bit of like, there's a little bit of that like sort of comparison consciousness of like, oh, well, what about this? What about that? What about this? The fact of the matter is that's not your intuition either, by the way. That's always either your mind trying to keep you safe or your heart going, but there's so much out there, and so it's important to be able to get quiet and silence
Yeah.
that and really listen to what serves your highest and best good. Your intuition might be directing you to the person that you didn't find attractive before you did the Hoffman process, or before you did the inner work, or before you did the healing or the sound bath, or whatever it is that got you, open hearted and clear
Yeah.
and awakened to your essential nature. It could be that that person is now becoming more attractive because the more well we are inside, the more we become attracted to well people. So,
So do you think if I apologize for
no, no.
interrupting, I was just a thought popped in my head. The more aligned we become with our inner knowing, our inner voice, the intuition,
Yeah.
do we begin to manifest at a more of higher frequency of vibration? I mean, how does that affect manifestation? In other words, law of attraction, that sort of thing.
Yeah, it's all the same thing. These are not
Okay.
different concepts. The more
Okay.
aligned you are with your intuition,
Yeah.
alignment creates a magnetism. It creates this magnetic force around you
Okay.
that, kind of draws to you everything that is in alignment with you as well. Does that make sense? So
Yeah.
if you are in alignment with your own intuition, that means to say that you have trained yourself to override self-doubt and fear and limiting beliefs and conditioning. And you've trained yourself to sort of honor the needs of the heart and say, I got you. We're going to get there. I promise. I'm
Okay.
just not going to make a crazy choice. I'm going to choose the right person for us. Okay. It's coming. I promise it's coming, And so just kind of like, it's kind of like the little kid in the candy store, where you just gotta like, it's okay. It's okay. We're going to get there. And
Yeah.
and then the intuition voice becomes louder. And you go, okay, I feel like this person, it has potential.
Yeah.
That's it. That's all. The intuition doesn't have to be like, that this is the one. This is the one. I know it.
Yeah, I feel like intuition is more of like, I think I mean, and I characterize it as binary. It's like it feels good or it doesn't feel good. Like I don't know how that's the way I
100%.
just like it's like,
Here's how
oh,
you know. Here's how you know. It
yeah,
feels good. I like what you said. It feels good in your body and you feel relaxed.
yeah.
I saw this meme the other day on Instagram, which I really like. It's like, date somebody that regulates your nervous system. It's like, this is the age we live in now. Everybody's looking to regulate their nervous system,
Yeah.
and this is what we've been doing as a species for thousands of years, is just trying to find ways to regulate our nervous system. And so, it like if you feel relaxed and calm and at peace, that's a yes. If that's uncomfortable for you, there's inner work to be done.
Mm,
If that's not
interesting.
attractive to you, if you're looking for the chaos and the up and down, and this is, the I don't know if he's coming, I don't know if he's calling, I don't know if he's
Yeah.
nope. Go back to the beginning. Do not pass go.
So
Go back to inner work.
but is well, to some degree, isn't dating kind of the on the job training too, kind of thing? Like, I mean, you
Of
need the experiences to feel these feelings of chaos so you can start working on it. Because it's hard to just sit at home alone going, I'm just going to work on my feelings.
Well, of course, 100%. But we're talking about you. This is on the court, like live in active dating
Yeah.
life. When
Yeah.
you're out there meeting people and you've met someone you like and you've met someone you connect with, and you want to make sure that it's your intuition that you're listening to.
Yeah.
That this feels like a yes, and intuition feels like a warm yes. It just feels like a welcome. Welcome
Oh,
to this
I'm going to
experience.
raise my hand.
Yes, sir.
Well, I've got something that
Yeah.
it's like an aha moment for me. So,
Beautiful.
so every time I go to bed, I
Uh-huh.
always say, remember your dreams. It's like a little trigger for me to remember my dreams. So I'm going to invite everybody before you go on your next first date. I want you to just pause before you meet the person and just take a moment, be still, be quiet, take a couple deep breaths and say, listen to my intuition, like,
Yeah.
or allow my intuition to be present, or
I think
just
that's a
some trigger.
wonderful intention.
Yeah, just
Could
set
even,
it.
you could even, I love this, Jonathan. We could even say, give me a sign.
Give me a sign. Ooh, I like that. I like that.
It's
Give
just
me a
give me
sign.
a sign. You know, some of us are really stubborn, and some of us need we need like we need, the universe to like shake us, right? Like get us fired and broke and out on the sidewalk before you start paying attention. You know what I mean? So that doesn't have to be you, okay?
You
Especially
crack
the
me up
dating
sometimes. You
doesn't
crack me up.
doesn't have to be you. So you can just say, give me a sign. It can be subtle. I
Yeah.
just want a sign that this is the right, I'm on the right track. This is a
Yeah.
good thing for me. And it can be a gentle thing. Again, your intuition can be guiding you to connect with someone once, twice, three times, and then it changes.
Yeah.
Be open to that because we're getting what we need, always getting what we need in the experiences that we're having. And it's when we try to create them in the forever. Oh, good. I'm glad you do. Yeah. So, I mean, then right? How reassuring and validating that is. And so, it's important that we understand that, like, when we try to make it a forever thing, after 3 dates or 4 dates
Yeah,
or
just
whatever,
make it, but give me a sign that I should go out with them another time or something.
that's
Like,
it.
in
Just
other words,
take it one day at a
yeah,
time.
exactly.
How
So
you
we have
develop
another
your
question.
intuition. Yes.
Okay. Lee says, how do you be assertive without sounding like you're giving an ultimatum with regard to moving forward in a relationship? I love this one, Sabrina.
It's
Take
so
this on for
It's
us.
so good. I love it. Here's what I want to say. It's always about the energy behind the words.
Yeah.
Always. Okay. So if you're coming in hot and pissed off and saying, this is how it has to be, or I can't date you, or, it sounds like an ultimatum, regardless of whatever words you're using or whatever, however you're structuring this phrase. If you
Yeah.
come in gentle and say, I really have a deep need for this. And, it's a non-negotiable for me. And it's something that I really need in this relationship. If you're willing to support me in getting these needs met, if you're willing to meet me there, if this is you, great. And if it's not, that's okay. It's
Yeah.
okay to give an ultimatum. It really is. It's really okay to say, hey, I need this. This is how it has to
Well,
go.
but really, it's not an ultimatum, it's a request. I
Well, but
mean,
that's what I mean. Like, we
yeah.
say ultimatum, like, hey, do this or out. Like, if you're not getting your needs met and you're asking over and over and over again, and the person is
Hmm.
just not willing to meet you there, what's wrong with that?
I see your point. Yeah, yeah, yeah. I'm always trying to reframe things in the least, violent communication way, in the most
I
compassionate way.
want I want to give Lee the opportunity to advocate for herself and not be
Yes,
too
yes,
concerned about creating a yes or if you're concerned about creating a yes or no situation, then you're not 100% sure about what it is that you want. Because if
mm,
you're sure and you're grounded and you're anchored in your values and you need something, like you need someone who texts you good night before they go to bed, or you need someone who is like communicative, or you need someone who believes the same religion as you or has the
yeah,
same spiritual practice as you, or whatever your beliefs are, whatever your non-negotiables are, and that person can't meet you there, it's okay to say, hey, I need this. And if this is not you, it's okay.
so I mean, and I say this partly to create a little bit of not controversy, but I'm like, look, if the penis is going inside the vagina on a regular basis, ladies, you have every right to ask whatever you want. Now, it
Yeah.
doesn't mean you're going to get whatever you want, but I always say if you two people are having sex, that gives you license to ask for your needs to be met, is what I mean by
You
that, or at
can
least make the
bear,
request.
if you can bear your body, you should be
Yeah,
able to bear your soul.
exactly, exactly, exactly. So, one thing I do,
Mhm.
I always I do my best to say the following. Hey,
Yeah.
there's something I'd like you to know about me. When I begin a relationship with an intimate relationship with someone, I like to be monogamous and exclusive. How do you operate? Like, I don't
Beautiful.
I just say what I am, and I just want to know how you operate. And for the most part, most women would probably, feel in alignment with that. But as a woman, I if you say that to a man and he's maybe on the fence about that.
Yeah, that's a
If
big
a,
red flag. That's a big
well,
red
no, well, no. What I mean to say is, if he actually has a virtue button,
flag. Mhm.
he'll move on. In other
Yeah.
words, he won't try to get that physical need met. He'll probably come up with some excuse why he won't be in relationship with you.
Right, but
But
you
at
need to
least,
you need to check and verify his initial response. How does his body language change when you say that?
Okay, got it.
How is his energy? This is intuition 101. This
Okay,
is where you get to use your intuition, right? Like
okay,
you're tuning into his energy and you feel his reaction. You feel his tense up and you feel him getting uncomfortable and you feel him like
yeah.
maybe not being able to look you in the eye. Like these are all clues, right? Like, oh, did I say something to make you uncomfortable? It's okay, right? It's okay. It's
Do you
okay.
think
Get it out.
I actually believe you can read your intuition is actually even a text message can be a clue for your intuition. Do you feel that to be true?
100%. Always check to see how you feel in your body. There's a
Okay.
distinction I teach in my containers called reaction versus discernment. And I know that you teach, I love you too, Marie. I know that you teach discernment in your coaching containers as well. We've talked about this many times. If you're in a reactive state, you can't access your intuition. Sometimes you get a text and it's like, oh my God, so
Yeah.
work to slow down your own central nervous system, do your own inner work, do your breath work, chill out, regulate yourself, calm down. When you're in that place of when you're out of reaction, then you can access your discernment. Thanks, Angelia. Cool. When you're in that place of discernment, you can now access your intuition and go, okay, how is it? Am I right about this guy?
Yeah.
Is this
Well,
okay?
I believe learning discernment is really, I mean, and it's something I teach, but it's really getting attuned to what you really want and so attuned to it that you notice when there's something even just slightly off. And it doesn't, again, we don't have to create a judgment around what's off, but it's just being curious. If you are aligned to who you are and what you want, you begin to notice when there's misalignment. And that to me is discernment. But more importantly, it's your intuition speaking to you is really what discernment brings.
Exactly. When we talked about earlier, when you talked about how do you hear your intuition, it's like, shh, quiet everything else. It's like quiet everything else. If the room is quiet and there's a really loud, jarring sound,
Yeah.
right? You're going to notice it.
Yeah.
You're going to notice it. If you're in a really noisy room where everybody's yelling at the top of their lungs and it's all full of static and frequency, you're not going to notice it.
Yeah.
Sense. So it's really important as you're using your inner compass, your inner guide, your intuition to date and to, decide to choose like, okay, is it safe for me to open up? Like, is this the right thing? Is this something that I can, yes, always check in with yourself. When you do that, gut check, usually for me, I have a 3-day policy on a gut check. I usually wait a day or 2 or 3 and just go, okay, am I still a yes, just to level out, because I can get super excited about things too. And as you trust that voice becomes more trustworthy, becomes louder, becomes more, something that you can really lean into, to make the right
Is
choice.
muscle testing part of your intuition?
Yes, I actually have a video on my Instagram that I did a while ago. I had a lot of fun doing it. You know how like you go to the grocery store, you go to like Whole Foods or CVS or whatever, and you're buying supplements, and there's like a whole wall. There's like 17 different vitamin C's.
Yeah.
There's like so many different multivitamins you can take or whatever. And so one of the things that I do, and I do muscle testing I use it for many, many different things. But when you hold something in your body and you just kind of get still, again, there's that word again, get still and just get quiet and really lean in. If you feel yourself pulling forward, that means it's good for your body. And if you feel yourself pulling back, it means it's not nourishing for your body. And you can do muscle testing for anything. Is this the
Yeah.
right book for me to read? Should I take this course? Should I take
Yeah.
this job? Should I date this person? You can do muscle testing for anything. There's an O-ring technique. You can YouTube it. It's very easy to learn. I mean, it'd be hard to like hold the guy you're dating and say, let me see if I'm backwards. But you can O-ring it. You could you could use your pendulum. That's another tool that I use that's basically muscle testing,
Yeah.
And so
We have one more question before we wrap up.
Sure.
Okay, this is the last one.
Hi, Coach.
Coach Amy, I do not even have friends who desire depth nor people who want much time together. Even just in general, I don't encounter deeper people. How do I keep myself optimistic about meeting my person?
Well, we got to drop all the limiting beliefs about what's out there, about I don't have this and I don't have that and I don't have this and I don't have that. First of all, this sounds very painful. to Coach
Yeah.
Amy. So I just want to acknowledge that this is, it feels like a very lonely way to live, when you
Yeah.
don't have people that meet your value system, that you don't have like-minded people that want what you want, that want it, you meet you at that level of depth that you so desire. It's time to manifest that. So I would start creating some affirmations, some new beliefs around what's possible in your life, and start putting those into your subconscious mind through, either meditation practice or listening to an app at night before you go to bed. As you know, I'm a huge fan of that. And
Think up.
start believing something different. The belief system will influence every cell in your body, and every cell in your body will manifest the circumstances in your life. So if you
Yeah.
want
I mean,
something,
by the way, and I'm going to share with everybody, because this is something that I've talked to Sabrina quite a bit. And Coach Amy, I have felt the same way. I have felt that I'm blessed because I do have a lot of people that are in my life, but in my immediate life, I haven't felt that way because from a proximity perspective. So what I've done is I've had to kind of push myself to go to places where like-minded people are. And I just, like, this last weekend, I went to the Center for Spiritual Living and went to their service on Sunday. And believe me, I was sitting there feeling very awkward, very anxious, very uneasy. And what was so fascinating or interesting was this woman who was, and this is a church, if you will. She came up to me and said, "Are you new here?" And I said, "Yeah." And she grabs me by the arm. She was about a 75-year-old woman. And she grabs me by the arm and says, "You're sitting up front with me." And I really didn't want to do it. But you know what? I said, just be open.
Yeah. Just
And,
say,
and you know what? I got so much out of it versus just being there alone. So my point for Coach Amy is I've had to push myself to go to places where I believe like-minded people are. Yoga studios, breath work, sound baths. I've done all of these things so I can just be around people that I feel like might be aligned with me. And guess what? I've been making a few new friends along the way. It is absolutely possible.
100%.
And like Sabrina says, let's shift our mindset, but also take some inspired action too.
Yeah,
Because
they go together. You can't just
Yeah.
have a belief. You have to take the action. They go together for sure.
Yeah.
100%. Best of luck.
All right, sweetheart. It's been
Yes.
fun. Happy. We went by an hour went by already like that.
Like that. I could talk
Yeah.
for the whole night with you. This was so fun. Yeah. Thank
Yeah.
you so much for having me. Thank you for all the wonderful questions.
Okay, really quickly, the Mystic Intuitive, share with everyone. I'll post the link.
Yes,
Tell everybody about it real quick.
It's called The Way of the Mystic. It's an 8-week class. It's a group class, and it's all about learning how to develop your intuition. We're going to dig deep and sort of learn how to listen to that whisper, as we were talking about in our chat tonight. We're going to overcome limiting beliefs and fears so that we can really develop our skill set, develop our gifts. We're going to dip into the clairs so we can see which one our strongest one is. We all have clairvoyance, clairaudience, clairsentience. We all have every single one. It's just a matter of developing it. So we're going to do some of that work in the course as well. We're going to learn how to connect to our spirit guides, learn how to receive messages, divinely guided messages from our support team. Everybody has one. Learn to connect with our loved ones as well, and really learn how to gain sovereignty, right? Because this is the importance of intuition, is to be able to live a life that is self-governing, self-affirming, and just self-empowering, right? Like when you're in that spot where you just know and trust yourself and deeply believe in your own ability to see, feel, and perceive what's true for you, it's impossible to make a mistake. We always end up exactly where we're supposed to be, right? And it's beautiful. It's beautiful to be able to have this practice for ourselves and to be able to guide others in this way as well.
All right, read the last sentence.
This is great. I really enjoyed the conversation. I need to listen to it again when I can give it my full attention. Yes.
Yay, Michelle. We appreciate that.
Come and check out my Way of the Mystic if you're interested in developing your intuitive gifts.
Sabrina, can I reach into the camera and give you a big, gigantic Jonathan Bear hug?
Certainly can.
Thanks for being on. I want to thank Michelle and Joe Daisy and McCoy Oak Hills Farm and Maureen and Power of Chi and Beach Lover and Coach Amy and Michelle and Catherine and Joe Daisy and Lee and everybody that commented. Big hugs. Wishing you all a super duper wonderful evening. Bye now. Bye-bye.
Bye.